Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story we have for you, government is attributing the significant spike in the country's debt stock for this year to the Cedi's depreciation and not fresh borrowings. The country's debt continues to hit record levels, reaching 761 billion cedis, despite a freeze on external borrowings. This has raised concerns about government's commitment to reducing the country's debts. But Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam insists they are working hard to reduce it to a sustainable level.
As of July 31st, 2024, Ghana's provisional nominal central government debt stood at 761.1 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to 51.1 billion US dollars. This represents a nominal increase from the previous amount of 587.7 billion Ghana cedis, equivalent to $53.5 billion. The increase in Cedi terms and the decrease in US dollar terms is attributed to a combination of factors, including Cedi depreciation, disbursement from multilateral institutions, and domestic financing of the budget.
So we want to interrogate the numbers further. Joining us via Zoom to do that is economist Professor Patrick Esuming. Thanks so much, Professor Esuming, for joining us on Business Live. And first off, what do you make of government's explanation that, well, the Cedi has been the major factor for the spike we are witnessing when it comes to the public debt stock and not necessarily fresh borrowings?
Good evening to viewers. Thanks for having me. So I think that's largely the case. Now, outside of the data presented by the Finance Ministry, if you look at the most recent data on the debt released by the Bank of Ghana, you notice that the external debt between the end of last year and June this year, it has increased by less than $1 billion. But in Cedi terms, the external component had increased more than 100 billion cedis. So that tells you that, the depreciation of the currency is really a big explanation. I think the finance minister didn't break down into the domestic and the external. It's the external that's usually quoted in dollars. So you couldn't really see from that point. But I think if you look at the data from the Bank of Ghana, it largely supports the fact that the currency depreciation has been a major driver. But of course, we also see that the domestic debt alone, this year we've added almost 40 billion cedis or so. But we all know that the government has been borrowing heavily from the treasury bill market. But I think the chunk of the explanation will come from the depreciation of the currency. All
right, talking about the domestic market, are you surprised that despite the domestic exchange program, the debt stock is at a nominal is really, really high?
Well, I think since we completed the domestic exchange, in fact, since we started, the government have been borrowing heavily and at very high interest rates. So you wouldn't be, I'm not surprised at all that we haven't seen much. If you convert it to dollars, it gives an unreal sense of where the debt is because the Cedi is depreciating. So if you convert from Cedi to dollar, it looks a smaller amount. But in Cedi terms, it's still really high because the government has been borrowing very heavily. You can't have any other source of borrowing, and we are still not living within our means. So that explains why the domestic debt is still rising.
Are you convinced that, measures being instituted by government will indeed bring the country's debt to a sustainable level, as the finance minister has alluded to, by 2028, for example, as the IMF program is projecting?
Well, outside of the debt exchange we've done, I'm not sure what specific measures that the finance minister is talking about. The debt comes from the difference between your expenditure and your revenue. So either you rein in expenditure or you collect more revenue. Yes, we have tried to collect some more revenue, but that is by adding new taxes. There are still a big chunk of uncollected revenues, and I think that's what you should focus on. Apart from the debt exchange, that has helped to bring the debt to GDP ratio down. I'm not sure that, so the debt exchange itself, that has brought us this far. it's a one-time thing. We are not going to rely on that to keep reducing the debt. So we better start reining in the expenditure, and then also ensure that we are broadening or we are improving the tax collection. Not necessarily bringing new tax handles, but we are making sure that the handles that we have at the moment are performing better. Because the VAT alone, we know we are not collecting even up to 70% of what we should be collecting. So I think there's still a lot to be done. I'm not sure that when we say there are measures, the biggest thing is to broaden the base. Since we said that we've ballooned the number of taxpayers because we are using the Ghana card, we haven't really seen any benefit. But I think this week...
Professor Sume, indulge me kindly. And why is that so? Why is that bit difficult for us to, broaden our tax base?
Yeah, I think it's people will say it's because of the informality, but it seems to me that it's more, lack of commitment or political reform on the side of the government, because there are many things that we have known that you think that should be lower hanging fruit that we haven't done. For instance, the discussion around property rates has been going on forever, and not much is happening. Every year we hear that something will be happening, and then we haven't done anything. At the same time, while we are trying to bring in new tax lines, we are still giving freebies. We are still expanding the exemption. So I think it seems like the government knows what to do. It's just like the commitment and political way to get it done.
Do you get the indication that, well, this debt development also shows that we have a lot more to do when it comes to stabilizing the Ghana cedi, for instance?
Yeah, I think the Ghana cedi, essentially, I don't think government has any short-term strategy that will help stabilize the cedi. It doesn't.
Why do you say
I think at the moment, the only two things that will be pointed to is the gold for oil and the gold for reserves. I think the gold for reserves, probably the potential is there and is believable. As for the gold for oil, I mean, I've never been convinced that it is going to do anything to stabilize the cedi. Now, for me, the medium-term thing we have to do is to redirect how we finance the economy from over-reliance on foreign financing, and then also cut all this importation of things that we can produce locally. I think that's where we should be heading. But the recent news that we've been hearing that we are going to import more grains, it doesn't sound like good news for the cedi in the short term. And then I'm sure we also heard that even the syndication loan, the finance ministry says we'll be doing it, but you get the sense that we're going to get a lower amount than we usually get. That also doesn't sound like it's good news for the Ghanaian cedi. So it's clear that there's no immediate short-term solution to addressing the city's challenges, and we are not really doing nearly enough in terms of the longer-term measures.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Patrick Esume. We appreciate your thoughts with us here on Business Live. Talking about the economy, former Finance Minister Cedi Tekpe is blaming government's inability to keep budget buffers established by the previous administration as part of reasons the economy has collapsed from the shocks of the COVID-19 and other external factors. According to him, the country received more than $6 billion as part of the COVID-19 support from the development partners, but misused the funds instead of investing in critical areas. Cedi Tekpe spoke to Joy Business after launching a book titled For the Records by the National Democratic Congress Anyansuotum constituency here in Accra. There is more in this report.
The book showcases the developmental journey of the Ghana Central Municipality under the National Democratic Congress NDC administration. Guest of honor, former Finance Minister Cedi Tekpe, encouraged members of the NDC to be positive in defending their achievement. In an interview with journalists, he accused government of destroying all the budget buffers built by the previous administration, which exposed the economy to shocks.
So yes, we are not denying that COVID was a serious challenge, but it was the experience of the global financial crisis. COVID may be bigger than the global financial crisis, but it was the experience of the global financial crisis under Professor Mills that we established the budget buffers. If you came and you spend the budget buffers with 3 oil fields and you didn't put them into it, don't blame Ghanaians, don't blame COVID. And in addition, you got $6 billion US. I'm talking about $6 billion US. I've spoken about it, so you can reference. And you are still blaming COVID, right? So I'm wrapping. So in essence, we are saying it's not just about new promises, but the new promises must be supported by facts and evidence of what you were able to use tax money to do and the evidence of those projects.
Tekpe expressed confidence that such a record-keeping document will be a good tool for local authorities to track development in their areas.
If you were to go constituency by constituency, or even 2 thirds of constituency, or adjoining constituencies can come together, right, and do one book, especially when they are small communities, constituencies, then you are bringing the evidence home to them. They will feel confident, you know, in either the TV or radio, you know, programs. They will feel confident when they do door to door, and they will feel confident and go to the. And with that, hopefully you would get people to see the lies that was told about the administration.
The book was authored by the Deputy Communications Officer for the Anya Sotum Constituency NDC, Raphael Apetogbo.
Government has justified the proposed 1,000 Ghana cedis compensation to farmers affected by the dry spell that hit parts of the country. It follows criticisms that the money proposed does not even meet a quarter of the investment cost. But Agric Minister Bridie Champon says the money is part of the total package that the government is working to extend to the affected farmers.
It is a package of relief. I do the calculation with my team and say that, look, if you crop a hectare of maize, okay, at 40, it's usually 40 bags of, when you crop an acre, you get about 40 bags of maize, 50 kg, an acre. You get about 40 bags. So 2.5 acres, that's about 100 bags, conservatively. Now, that 100 bags, if you sell at about 200, 250, you get about 25,000 Ghana cedis. You need about 30% of that as investment into crop. So we are looking at about, what, 7 to 10,000 Ghana cedis. So let's say a farmer has lost 10,000 Ghana cedis of investment, 10,000 per hectare. I'm saying that I'm going to give you all the seeds that you require to replant. So everything that you lost in terms of maize seed, improved maize seed, and fertilizer, I'm going to give it to you. That in itself, okay, it's about 4,000 Ghana cedis per acre. Is that correct? About 4,000 per acre. I am also going to give you, and we're talking about 2.5 acres. I'm also going to give you 1,000 Ghana cedis in addition. George, I am going to give you food grants, because when you harvest, you are supposed to keep it for 1 year. Feed yourself for 1 year. I'm going to give you food grant. George, if you put that together, that is not 1,000 Ghana cedis.
You're still watching Business Live. We are back with more. Please stay. Hello, welcome back to Business Live. The Executive Director of the Cosmos Innovation Center, Benjamin Jankesi, is calling for pragmatic agricultural solutions to tackle food insecurity in the country. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the Agricultural Innovation for Africa Conference organized by the Cosmos Innovation Center, Mr. Jankesi explained that the impact of climate change calls for policies that will encourage the youth to venture into agricultural sector.
The Agricultural Innovation for Africa Conference is a 2-day forum with the objective of advancing conversations expected to shape the future of agricultural innovation, youth employment, and food security in Africa. It assembles policymakers, academia, and actors in the value chain to deliberate on measures to be taken in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2, which aims at creating a world free of hunger by 2030. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the second edition of the conference, Executive Director of Cosmos Innovation Center, Benjamin Jankese, called for youth-led innovations to champion the issue of food security on the continent.
Africa, like the rest of the world, is facing unprecedented challenges in the face of changing climate conditions. There are a lot of agricultural transformation towards food security and sustainable food systems, and it is timely that the perspective of youth actors within the system is added to the.
He details the expected outcome of the conference.
The conference provides an invaluable opportunity to address issues that startups face and explore actionable solutions, harnessing the youth potential to transform Africa. Youth and agri-SMEs continue to remain at the forefront of innovations and change in agriculture. By supporting these young innovators through conferences such as these, we are strategically positioning ourselves to champion a course of navigating the daunting challenges of food systems.
Delivering the keynote address, Country Director for Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, Dr. Betty Annan, stressed on the need for innovative financing schemes to support startups.
Lack of credit in the agricultural sector prevents the ability of the market access to invest and grow. Addressing such challenges require more than just traditional approaches. Innovative financing mechanisms are critical to building climate resilience amongst our youth startups and agri-MSMEs. Access to affordable credit, blended finance modules, and climate-focused investment funds can enable these enterprises to adopt sustainable practices, invest in climate-smart technologies, and enhance productivity.
The conference, which is organized by the Cosmos Innovation Center, also hosted a pitch session where about 30 agro startups share details of their businesses and innovations in a quest to attract funding from partners and other financial institutions.
To one of our lead stories, China remained the leading investment destination of foreign direct investments into Ghana with 31 projects in 2023. That's according to a report by Bridgewater Advisors. The report stated that the Far East country contributed the highest FDI of $211.89 million. More in this report.
The United States of America followed with 14 projects, bringing in $26.3 million in foreign direct investment. India contributed 13 projects and $77.9 million in FDI, while the Netherlands added 9 projects with an FDI value of $21.8 million. Turkey registered 4 projects with a significant FDI value of $173.2 million. Meanwhile, Mauritius remained the leading source of investment in Ghana from the African continent in 2023. Despite a 63% decline in the volume of investment deals, the investment value from Mauritius surged by approximately 891%, making it the only African country among the top investors in Ghana for the year. Notable investment projects in 2023 included Asan Ghana Limited, a Turkish company investing $156 million in affordable housing.
In more business news, the Bui Power Authority has recorded $157 million in revenue for the year 2023, representing about a 1% drop of revenue realized from the previous year, that is 2022. Well, this is partly influenced by low supply of energy onto the national transmission system. Speaking at this year's annual general meeting in Accra, Chief Executive for the Bui Power Authority, Kofi Jamesi, said effective cost measures impacted positively on the company's net profit, which stood at $80.6 million from the previous year's amount of $79.2 million. More in the following report.
Power Authority ended the year with a marginal increase in net profit, but a lower revenue as compared to the previous year of 2022. According to the Chief Executive, the company is on course to operate in a sustainable environment as the world moves towards energy transition. Addressing the board and shareholders at the annual general meeting, Kofi Jamesi attributed the improvement in profit margins to cost measures undertaken by the company.
Our supply of 1,516 gigawatts of energy onto the national interconnected transmission system for the year was 2% lower than that of the preceding year, which still remains our all-time high of 1,547 gigawatt hour. This translated into a total revenue of 157.1 million, which was lower than the previous year's revenue of 158.8, representing a decrease of 1%. However, stringent cost containment over the period impacted positively on net profit, resulting in an increase of 1.8% from 79.2 million in 2022 to 80.6 million in 2023.
Deputy Minister for Energy, John Kwabena-Sani, described the financial performance of Bui Power Authority as impressive and urged the company to be focused in the resolve to support economic growth.
The operational performance of BPA in 2023 was equally impressive, with 1,519 gigawatts of electricity generated despite the challenges faced. The authority's ability to manage and mitigate the impact of a false outage on its solar generation speaks volumes about its resilience and operational excellence.
The authority is therefore embarking on some new projects to increase its hydro and solar generating capacities.
Thanks so much for being part of Business Life for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Next is Beyond the Numbers with my colleagues Winston Taki and Kofi Eje will join us as well as Caleb.
Absolutely.
Guys, and we are talking about the Gold for Oil program.
Yes, since the introduction of the Gold for Oil policy in 2022, much has not been done, especially assessing its impact consistently over the years. So today, we'll be taking you from then to bring you what it means now and also some development from the Auditor General's report in regards to the performance and details, especially contractual-wise, and how it has been.
Great. And you wouldn't want to miss out on this great discussion. Do stay on right after this break.